Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, my team and I will be discussing a critical aspect of financial reporting, which is the transparency of business operations through segment and related party disclosures. Transparency is the bedrock of investor confidence, and to explore this, we have analyzed two highly relevant articles that bridge the gap between accounting standards and real-world financial value. In this introduction, I will present the title, authors and sources of our chosen material, as well as our rationale for selecting them. Our first article is a technical snapshot titled Segment Disclosure, which information through the eyes of management. This piece was published in May 2022 by PwC Malaysia's Capital Markets and Accounting Advisory Services as CMAAS. We choose this article because it provides a practical and authoritative practitioner's perspective on MFRS 8, which is operating segments. It clearly explains how businesses identify their chief operating decision maker, CODM, and how they determine which parts of their business are important enough to show to the public. It is essential for our study because it defines the how and why of segment reporting directly from one of the world's leading accounting firms. Our second article takes an academic approach to the consequence of disclosure. It is titled, Does Related Party Transactions Disclosure Affect the Value Relevance of Financial Statements? This research paper was authored by Taufik Hidayat, Erna Sejani and Apollo Daito and was shared via the ResearchGate platform in October 2023. We selected this specific research because it moves beyond just how to report and ask does it matter. It explores the relationship between related party disclosures, which often occur within business segments, and the actual value investors place on financial statements. By comparing this academic study with the PwC technical snapshot, we can see both the rules of reporting and the economic impact of those rules on the stock market. The primary reason we choose these two specific articles is to create a balanced perspective. The PwC snapshot tells us the technical requirements, which explaining how management allocates resources and distinguish key product lines. Meanwhile, the ResearchGate article provides the empirical evidence showing how this disclosure affects investor decisions. Together, these articles provide a complete picture of why segment and related party information is vital for assessing an entity's future cash flows and overall financial health. As we move into the main body of our presentation, keep in mind these two pillars, the management's internal view and the investor's external reaction. Now, I will pass the floor to the next person to discuss the core findings of the PwC report.
My name is Nurul Aina Bila binti Alias and my metric number is 1230659. I will explain the summary of the article. The article segment disclosure, information through the eyes of management, explains the requirements and purpose of operating segment disclosure under MFRS 8. The key principle of MFRS 8 is that segment information should reflect how management internally views and manage their business, rather than being prepared solely for external reporting purpose. According to the article, An operating segment is defined as a component of an entity that engages in business activities from which it earns revenues and incurs expense, whose operating results are regularly reviewed by the Chief Operating Decision Maker (CODM) for performance evaluation and resource allocation, and for which discrete financial information is available. These operating segments represents the lowest level at which management monitors business activities and makes strategic decisions. The article further explains that identifying operating segments begins with identifying the CODM, who is typically the Chief Executive Officer or the Board of Directors. Business activities are then analyzed to determine whether they generate revenue or incur expense. While MFRS 8 does not require a complete set of financial statements for each segment, the financial information provided must be sufficient and regularly reviewed by management. The article also distinguishes between operating segments and reportable segments. Not all operating segments are required to be disclosed separately. MFRS 8 allows operating segments to be aggregate if they have similar economic characteristics such as similar products and services, customer types, production process, and regulatory environments. In addition, quantitative thresholds including the 10% test and the 75% external revenue test are applied to determine which segments are reportable. Furthermore, The article highlights key disclosure requirements, including information on segment profit or loss, assets and liabilities if reviewed by the CODM, as well as entity-wide disclosures such as key products or services, geographical information, and customer concentration. Importantly, MFRS 8 allows segment information to be presented using non-GAAP measures, provided that appropriate reconciliations to consolidated financial statements are disclosed. Overall, the article emphasized that operating segment disclosure provides a detailed view of the entity's performance and operations based on management's internal reporting structure.
My name is Nur Amira Sofia binti Muhammad Amir. My metric number 1230747. Now I will explain why operating segment disclosure is important. Operating segment disclosure is important because it significantly enhances the usefulness and transparency of financial information for users of financial statements. Firstly, segment disclosure enables investors and analysts to assess future cash flow more accurately. By understanding how different segments perform, users can evaluate which business activities generate value and which may pose financial risk. This information is more informative than consolidated figures alone. Secondly, operating segment disclosure improves management accountability. Since segment information reflects how management allocates resources and evaluate performance, users can assess whether management decisions are effective and align with the entity's strategic objective. Thirdly, segment disclosure provide valuable insight into the risk profile and diversification of an entity. Information on geographical operations and customer concentration helps users identify potential exposure to economic, regulatory, or market-specific risks. Additionally, presenting segment information through the eyes of management helps to reduce information asymmetry between management and external users. This alignment between internal reporting and external disclosure increase the credibility and relevance of financial statement. In conclusion, operating segment disclosure under MFRS 8 is essential because it supports informed decision-making, enhance transparency, and provide a clearer understanding of how an entity operates and creates value.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sofia Balikis binti Faizal. My metric number is 1230650. Today I am presenting a study titled Does Related Party Transaction Disclosure Affect the Value Relevance of Financial Statement? Published in the Journal of Accountancy Contemporary, or in English, Journal of Contemporary Accounting. The primary goals of this research was to see if providing extra information about related party transaction, or RPTs, actually help the investor better understand a company's value. To do this, the researcher looked at a large sample of 343 companies listed in the Indonesia Stock Exchange for over 5-year period from 2016 to 2020. Now, how did they test this? They used a method called regression analysis. They compare two different ways of looking at financial data. First, they look at standard financial statement where RPT sales and regular sales are lumped together as total sale. Then, they look at the enhanced model where RPT sales were separated from non-RPT sales. By comparing these two models, they measured something called value relevance. In simple words, they wanted to see which model better predicted abnormal returns, in which are the unexpected change in stock price when an annual report were released. The results were quite clear. When companies separated their data, the model ability to explain market movement is a R-squared value, jump from the 18% to 25.4%. This proved that RPT's disclosure provide incremental information. In another word, the market doesn't just want to see the total revenue, but it specifically want to know how much of that revenue came from this with related party. In summary, this article demonstrates that detailed transparency is not just paperwork exercise. It has the statistically significant impact on how the stock market value the company.
My name is Karunavila binti Zaradi. My metric number is 1230667. So I would like to thank you for Sophia Balkis. Since we know that RPT data significantly impacts firm value, we must ask why. The first core reason is mitigating type 2 agency problems. In many markets, the biggest risk isn't between managers and owners, but between majority and minority shareholders. Disclosure acts as a security camera, preventing those in power from tunneling or siphoning wealth away into their own private pockets at the expense of smaller investors. The red flags, which is tunneling versus propping. This brings us to how disclosure exposes financial manipulation. Without transparency, investors cannot distinguish between genuine growth and engineered numbers. We look for two specific red flags. First, tunneling. This is illegal transfer of assets or profits of the firm to related parties. Second, propping. This is the opposite, where a parent company props up a struggling subsidiary by injecting artificial revenue to hide poor performance. Detailed RPT disclosure pulls back the curtain, allowing investors to see if the company's performance is real or just a reel of internal money shuffling. Next is bridging the gap and the reward. Thirdly, disclosure is vital for reducing information asymmetry. Management always has the insider advantage. By being transparent about RPTs, companies bridge the gap between those inside in the boardroom and those outside in the market. But here is the best part, the market reward. The study found a direct positive link between higher RPT disclosure and abnormal returns. This proves that the market isn't just looking for profits, it is looking for integrity. Investors are actually willing to pay a premium for companies that exceed mandatory transparency standards. In conclusion, RPT is not just a burden of extra paperwork, it is a strategic tool that builds trust, protects the vulnerable, and ultimately drives up the firm's market value. With that, I will hand over to Atira binti Anas Nasrun to wrap up our analysis with the final reflection. Thank you.
Lastly is the reflection and conclusion based on the group's opinion. Our group analysed two perspectives on financial reporting, which is the technical mechanics of MFRS 8 and the market impact of related party transactions. Here is our reflection on why these disclosures matter beyond just ticking a box. First, connecting rules to reality. We realised that segment reporting and related party disclosures are two sides of the same coin. From the PwC article, we learned about the management approach. This isn't just about maths, it's about authenticity. It forces a firm to show itself through the CEO's eyes. Our group's opinion is that this creates a bridge, while MFRS 8 ensures the internal story is honest. The research case study proves that the market provides the external validation. We found it fascinating that high disclosures is actually an investment, not a cost. The more transparent the segments and transactions, the higher the market rewards the firm. Next is beyond the checklist, which is agency and asymmetry. We learned that disclosure is the strongest defense against agency problems. Without detailed RPT reporting, unethical practices like tunneling, where wealth is siphoned out, or propping, where revenue is artificially inflated, would stay hidden in the shadows. A major takeaway for us was the concept of information asymmetry. In the stock market, no news is usually bad news. We discussed as a group how even negative information is valuable because it allows investors to price risk accurately. Transparency reduces the fear of the unknown, which in turn lowers market volatility. For the final conclusion, our group views disclosure as the X-ray of a firm's health. It shifts the corporate narrative from a vague "trust me, we are profitable" to a bold "here is the data that proves we operate." Ultimately, we've learned that the most successful companies don't just follow the rules. They embrace transparency as a tool to build lasting trust with their stakeholders. That's from us. Thank you.